Welcome to the Fractional Show. Today I've got Mr. TJ in the house. TJ, welcome, welcome.
What's going on?
Well, so excited to have you here. Well, you're launching the Steel Point Collective Investment Club on Fractional. Give us a 60-second elevator pitch. Who are you and what is this club?
Wow, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever done that before. No, I'm just kidding. TJ Bencho here in Pittsburgh, PA. The name of our company is Steel Point Capital. And what we do is we give people the opportunity to invest with us, make a nice double-digit return. We use that money to provide short-term lending to real estate investors here in the Pittsburgh market. We're real estate investors ourselves, so we know how to protect the money. It's asset-backed. That's how it's protected. Steel Point Collective Investment Club this is our first one. Stella, we've known each other for a while. You invested with us a couple months ago. I can't even remember, maybe longer. I can't even remember. We met in Dallas. I was wearing my belt. We sat together, we hung out, and then you introduced us to this amazing idea of a money club, and where the people who join get to vote. And the way we're doing it is they don't just get to earn that nice double-digit return, but they also get to learn along the way, because we're going to teach them how we underwrite the deals we lend on, why we underwrite the deals we lend on, why we don't lend on the deals that we don't lend on, and our whole entire thought process. So not only they get to earn that nice return, they get paid quarterly, but they also get to learn along the way.
I love that. I mean, that was literally what I was texting you about last week. I'm like, hey, I do private money lending on my own, but the way that I operate as a solo operator is definitely not at the level of scale and caliber that you and Casey have been able to build up with Steel Point. I'm like, I want to know how to up my game, which is why I personally am joining the investment club as well. And you are showing me, the ropes around how do you even set up, a pipeline? How do you automate things? Click all the pieces together, right? Which makes me really, really excited. To your point, it's not just about the money, but actually being on the inside and seeing how everything works. And I want to double click into that because TJ, your family has been investing in Pittsburgh real estate since 1925. What does, a whole century of local market knowledge give you in the lending space that someone else just doesn't have?
I didn't even consider that. We're 101 years in, right? My family. But take a step back. You went to CMU, right? You are a Pittsburgh real estate investor yourself, even though you live out in the Bay Area. You know what our city has to offer. It's such an awesome city. It's very affordable. It's been ranked multiple times, including this year or last year, the most affordable city in the country. And it has some great universities like Carnegie Mellon, like I got to say Duquesne University, because that's where I graduated from, Pitt, and all the others. But I want to give you a shout out, right? Because you graduated, then you started down your journey. You became a real estate investor. You're a successful real estate investor. You started Fractional, and you then saw an opportunity in private money lending, and you took advantage of that opportunity, right? Through your relationships, you're doing it, and you're learning along the way. You got your hands in so many different things, but they're all related and focused. So it's not like, shiny object syndrome. I really, really respect what you're doing. So I wanted to make sure to say that before anything else.
Love it. Love it.
So as far as my family history, my great-great-grandmother, Baba Bazicevic, came over from Croatia in 1895. Rented a 2-bedroom apartment to 5 Croatian immigrants, saved up all the money. She cooked for them, cleaned for them, did their laundry. All they had to do was go to the steel mill, work, and pay Bubba. She did everything else for them. I'm sure they spent some time at the bar hanging out and doing some other stuff. And she saved up all that money from 1895 till 1925. And in 1925, she bought our family's first investment property. What that looks like is, that looks like a lot of market knowledge here in Pittsburgh and just real estate investing in general. But more importantly to me, it looks like a family legacy that matters. So my wife and I, Jen's my wife and I have 3 boys, Thomas, Luke, Tucker, 16, 14, 11. Today, all 5 of us, there was a group showing from a wholesaler at a house in Penn Hills, and all 5 of us were there together today walking through and evaluating this house. Then we left there. We saw some things the pictures didn't show. When I was doing it, I was teaching my boys what I look for. They already own 2 investment properties themselves, but they're getting to the point where they want to form their own LLC. They want to start doing it without dad. So I'm there with them, showing them all these things, talking to the seller. Afterwards, on the car ride home, we call the realtor and tell the realtor everything we saw. Now, let me tell you, my kids have their own email address that all wholesale deals go to, and they're underwriting their own deals. We have a group text strand with the realtor we use on flips and wholesales, which is something we've been doing recently also. And so we called that realtor afterwards and explained to him everything. Through a lot of conversation, it came out that we're going to walk away from the deal. But that story's all just to say, like, what does it mean all these years in real estate investing? It's allowed our family to experience the power of having your money work for you rather than you working for your money, along with growing market knowledge along the way, which has allowed many people in my family, including myself and will be my boys, to do what we want to do with our lives, not what we have to do to make a dollar and live the way we want to live.
That's incredible. I mean, just the fact that your whole family is involved and they're, being so heavily ingrained in all the moving parts of the business, like I love the legacy component. And I mean, TJ, you've worn so many hats, right? Like you're an operator, you've done property management. How does that influence, your ability to lend and the decisions that you're making there?
It's crazy when you think about life in general and when you think about your professional career. I'm 42 years old, so I'd say I'm 42 years young. I'm still very young. 42, and I'm in the best shape of my life, hands down, mine, mentally, physically, spiritually. But what it allows me to do is I think back to when I was self-employed. I was self-employed from the time I was 18 until 2020. So how old was I in 2020? That was 6 years ago. I was 34 years old. And what I learned in that self-employment time, I had my own contracting company, my own property management company. I brought people from all over the world to invest in Pittsburgh real estate. I would get on stages in California and Australia. All of that was building the foundation for this deep knowledge of what a renovation really takes. Understanding when a borrower submits their scope of work, now I'm teaching my team to do it because we want to be able to delegate and elevate, but I can look over that scope of work compared to the pictures and I can understand, does this scope of work really make sense? And what's the cost associated? Are they budgeting the right amount? Are they budgeting too much or not enough? And what are they missing? So you have that aspect of it. If they're looking at it as a burr, because I grew and sold off multiple property management companies and then I helped City Life grow their property management division, and there was a 1.5 year time where I ran a wholesale division that did about 1.3 million in 1 year. I understand all sides of the game, which allows the underwriting process not only to be well-rounded and thorough, which protects the investor money, is very important, but also allows to understand it from the buyer side, from the borrower side, what they're really going through and what they're thinking and what they need. So we separate ourselves from the institutional lenders. Not that there's anything wrong with institutional lending, it's just there's a lot more red tape and you don't have that local touch and that local understanding to really be able to guide, advise, and help consult with your borrowers to add all that value to where your borrowers are willing to pay. We charge our borrowers 13% and 2 points. That's the cost to borrow our money, and it's well worth it because you get that relational aspect, you get that advice, you get that speed. All of that comes from all of the experience we talked about.
That makes a ton of sense. And one of the mistakes that I actually made early on in my, lending career was that, sometimes you get bamboozled by really high returns, but you don't understand all the nuances, as you mentioned, right? Like scope of work, is them projecting this thing, like, is that even reasonable? What has been, maybe a crazier, thing that you've seen where you call that bullshit that, someone that's not deeply ingrained into the ecosystem and knows every moving part might not have seen?
Oh, there's so much, but if you want to go, one of the crazier, someone sends over a house with the pictures and it's down to the studs, and their projected renovation is $60,000. And they believe they can do that, right? So you're like, you got to coach them through that reality. Like, listen, that is not anywhere close to reality. Or you get an out-of-state investor. You get a lot of out-of-state right now in all markets, but Pittsburgh gets, from bigger pockets and all the things out there, Pittsburgh gets a ton of attention now. It used to be that hidden gem. It's becoming less and less hidden. So you get a lot of, out-of-state investors, and they don't understand how, and this from experience, how neighborhood by neighborhood Pittsburgh is, right? You could be right there in the Hill District, on the back end of the Hill District, and then literally three streets over, you're in Oakland. So, buying something in the 3 streets that aren't as good and thinking they're going to sell it on the back end for as much as you're going to sell it 3 streets over in Oakland. So that's the kind of things that we really experience, where we are able to protect ourselves. And what really ends up happening is our investors, we have the trust building phase and the trusted borrower phase. The goal is to get all of our borrowers to the trusted borrower phase, where they've done 3+ deals with us and are averaging about 2 deals per month. Where when a borrower comes to us and they know if we're going to lend on it, then it's a deal they can count on. And many of our borrowers, if we won't lend on the deal, they end up walking away.
That is so powerful, because they're essentially using you as a resource on how fundable a project is, and whether something is a deal or no deal. And to add on to that, I know you've worked with a lot of operators where, because they're working with Steel Point, they've been able to really grow their portfolio significantly. I want to understand, from the lending perspective, how do you choose to make a bet on someone as an operator outside of just the numbers of the actual property?
I love that. I love that question, because you know me very well at this point, and you know that me and Casey, we're very relationship focused. So we tell everybody when we're talking to them, we are relationship and deal-based lending. So the second thing you talked about was the deal aspect to it. We can run the numbers. Numbers are numbers. That's why I like real estate. 1 + 1 = 2. I'm a finance, investment management, dual major. Like that's easy. It's the relationship aspect of it. So one thing that a lot of hard money lenders don't necessarily consider, that we really do, is that initial application says a lot about the borrower. So when a borrower submits that initial application, what we're looking at is a few things to understand the relationship, who they are as a borrower. Number one, does the scope of work actually make sense? We talked about that, me and you, just a little bit ago. If the scope of work doesn't make sense, you start to really question this borrower's investing IQ, right? So does the deal make sense? Does the numbers we use a CRM called Lender. You know that because my team actually just walked you through it the other day. By the way, I'll be interested to see what you think about it. But in our CRM, when they submit their estimated after repair value. They submit their estimated rental amount if it's a BRRRR. They submit all the other details, the scope of work. So when they submit, does their after repair value actually make sense, right? If you submit something where the after repairs value is 300 and our after repair value is 300, instantly I'm like, all right, because when we underwrite, we don't look at your numbers. Our underwriter looks at it and comes up with his numbers based off his experience, our experience. He's been underwriting for us for years in different aspects of our business. So if those things line up, we're like, all right, this person knows what they're talking about. Then you move on to rental amounts. Do the rental amounts make sense? Is there an alignment there? Does the scope of work make sense? Then we look at how many deals have you done? We lend to borrowers who have done no deals. It's their first deal. They've become some of our best borrowers, but on the upfront aspect, how did those things look? And then how are they with communication? Guess what? You can call us and we pick up the phone, or someone's getting back to you quickly. Is that reciprocal? Because if you're not communicative during the fact where you're trying to get us to give you money, what's it going to be like once we've given you the money? So we look at all those things. And then, of course, we look at credit score. We do a soft pull on credit. We also look at your reserves, right? Somebody who has $5,000 in the bank versus someone who has $200,000 in the bank shows that this individual is actually able to save some money and be responsible, and they have more cushion when it comes to it.
Yeah, I mean, that is so powerful. And I really relate to the communication part because I have partnered with a different hard money lender before where I learned later down in the process, they actually chase so many of their applicants for the information and they're asking for it like line by line. And just comparing that to what you said around borrower IQ, I'm like, why are we even working with that borrower, right? Like they clearly don't know how to communicate. They clearly don't have their stuff together. They're not organized, which would likely be a shit show once they actually become a borrower where our money is down on the line, right? So I think that makes a ton of sense, just the strategy and the precision and how methodical you guys are with every step of the funnel. And speaking just around that, right? How do you guys keep a borrower in check throughout the process of their project?
Great question. It's all about your draws. So when we lend at closing, let's say we're giving $100,000 towards the purchase and $50,000 towards the renovation. That's typical Pittsburgh loan. ARV is after repair value is $225,000. At closing, we have a loan amount with the borrower of $150,000. However, we only send the closing company $100,000 and we do a $50,000 construction holdback. So we don't give the construction money up front. The borrower then has to go perform work out of their own pocket, 10, 15, 20 grand, whatever they want, because we give unlimited draws at $200 per draw. So if the borrower wants to go do $100 worth of work and request a draw, we'll do it. We give them 500 draws. It's $200 a draw. A smart borrower is not doing that. That's another thing that tells us about their IQ, by the way. But when they go perform that work, they then have to submit to us in our CRM pictures. And this is something most lenders don't do. It's not hard. It takes 5 minutes. They have to take a video of the entire house every draw they submit. The whole exterior, the whole interior, the basement. It literally takes 3 to 5 minutes. What that does is on every draw, we could see the whole picture and what's still remaining. So like let's say it's your first draw on a $50,000 and you're submitting a $20,000 draw request. Well, we have in lender, we have a detailed line item scope of work. Every borrower has to have roof, $10,000. Flooring, $5,000. New kitchen cabinets, X. That's how detailed it is. So you're submitting your draw request specifically for those items. But however, you show us the video of the whole house. Now let's say when you bought this house, you said the furnace was good, the furnace looked good, and it's not on your scope of work. Now you send me a video of the whole house and I can see there's no furnace in there. Well, that's $6,000 that wasn't accounted for in your scope of work. I'm not releasing you your draw. Why? Because if you default, I have to go put that new furnace in. So we have to hold back that additional $6,000 until that new furnace is put in addition to the work you did. So you're back at ground zero, because if you default, which we've never had a borrower default in the 6.5 years we've been doing this, however, we know we will. So this is how you protect yourself as a hard money lender from defaulting, taking over an asset, and then needing to put more in it than you expected. So let me take you down another route, if you don't mind. This is the biggest thing about underwriting, and I didn't mention this yet, is the exit strategy. You need, as the lender, one of your main focuses, besides everything we already talked about, is the exit strategy. So when you're reviewing this and you're looking at the exit, how they're going to exit, if they can exit and you feel confident they can exit, then you should lend on the deal. So you feel that the good relationship's right, the deal's right, which means they're going to be able to exit on the back end. That's what you really care about. Our term is a 6-month loan. Our average turn time on our money right now is about 140 days. But we do all of our cash forecasting based off 6 months. So you want to know, can this person exit in the time frame they're agreeing to? With that being said, I'm evaluating if they default and I have to take over this asset, what am I going to do for my exit? So that's what I'm thinking about the entire time. Every draw request they put in, I'm evaluating, am I still in the same position now that I was when I originally agreed to lend this loan, so I feel protected on my exit strategy? If I'm in the same position or better, I give you the draw. If I'm not in the same, if I'm in a worse position, I talk to you, we talk through it. I'm only giving you the amount of draw that keeps me in the protected position.
That makes a ton of sense. I'm honestly learning so much just from how much intensity you're going through with every step. And I'm curious, right? Like in a video walkthrough, has there ever been large enough of a discrepancy from video versus if you guys had sent an inspector there on site to look at it, or do you feel like that gives you a pretty good scope of things?
No. There's times. So like especially borrowers that aren't trusted borrowers yet, right? They haven't done 3+ deals with us. The majority of our borrowers, 70% of our borrowers are repeat borrowers that are doing usually 1 or 2 a month. But however, especially our new, we're always looking to bring in 30 to 40% new borrowers. You always got to be growing, right?
Yeah.
We're about to have our largest month we ever had this month. So that requires a lot of new borrowers. Very excited. That's why we're Still Point Collective Investment Club. We need more money. So we can't lend money we don't have. However, early on, you send pictures, you send video, it's the demo. I'm not sending one of my team members to go inspect the demo, right? Mm-hmm. You want reimbursed for the demo. Now, you're 50% of the way through the project and you're requesting that $20,000 draw. Even if pictures and video look good, I'm probably getting a team member there to meet you. Number one, it's relationship building. We're deepening our relationship, right? We're meeting you on site. We're giving you advice. The team members, all of our team members are real estate investors here in Pittsburgh. That's pretty cool. So our team members going there, and when we go there, we're saying, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about that? So we're adding value on the spot. But yes, there are times where pictures and video, and you get borrowers, we just, real life story. We just had a borrower last week who wanted their final draw. Pictures and video, our first time working with this individual. Pictures and video showed that there were items completed. There was a leak in the basement, a potential gas leak, a light fixture not installed, and a couple other things. So our head of business development gets on the phone. Hey, Mr. Borrower, we're not going to be able to release your final draw. Here's why, right? Borrower flips out. Mother effing him, all this stuff. Guess what? He's not getting any more money from us. Even with that, the idea is we don't get ego in the way. That our head of business development swung, I'm not sure the right word, that's my Pittsburghese, swung by the job the next morning, right? Because we're all here around here in Pittsburgh. Yep. Did a walkthrough, gave the guy a courtesy of giving him a list. This is what we need for your final draw. Now, what we'll do is, because we care about the relationship as a one-time courtesy, we'll give you your final draw minus the amount that we feel comfortable, and we will waive your final draw fee. Right? Because
yep.
like that's $200, but we went out of our way, we got there, we protected the company, and we did our best to protect the relationship. If that individual wants to work with us again, I'm not saying we never will, but we will clearly state and have in writing with them and signed off on, we expect a certain level of communication. This is our process. This is our draw process, which you already know, and we expect you to adhere to that.
This is a reminder. Feed bell.
Alexa just reminded me to feed my dog, by the way. So
I hear you right there. That makes a ton of sense. And TJ, you mentioned earlier that you guys haven't had a borrower in default, but you're prepared for that situation to happen. Walk us through what that situation is like, because I mean, each state and each city's foreclosure process is also different. once you guys take over, obviously you guys are well equipped to run the rest of the project, but what does that look like if something does go wrong?
Pretty cool. Here in Pittsburgh, you're able to, we every asset we lend on, we place a first lien position on the asset. But we also have the borrower sign a deed in lieu of foreclosure. A deed in lieu of foreclosure allows us to go down to the county courthouse, file the deed in lieu of foreclosure, and take over the asset without going through the foreclosure process. So it's literally that quick. You go down, you file the deed in lieu, goes through a couple steps. Within a few days, the asset's ours, and we take over the asset. I believe the fact that we focus on the relationship, our borrowers don't want to let us down, and we have some of the most favorable terms and customer service in Pittsburgh, so they want to continue to lend with us. And the fact that we have that deed in lieu, that's what's resulted in us not having a foreclosure.
That's powerful. And you guys have a very strict lending box as well. Have you and Casey ever thought of expanding that? Why or why not? I would love to learn the thought process around that.
When you say lending box, are you talking about lending like area, or are you talking about guidelines?
Guidelines.
No. Our guidelines are strict, but we're relationship and deal-based lending. So what that means is we're not the institutional lender looking at our matrix saying, does the borrower have this credit score, and is the home in this ARV value with this, and that's where we hit. We evaluate that individual, we evaluate that relationship, and we evaluate the asset itself. And based off of that, I mean, some of the guidelines are like when you're in the trust building phase, we're between 80 to 100% of the purchase. We usually still do about 100% of the renovation. We finance 6 months of interest, and we don't finance closing costs. Once you've done multiple deals with us and you become a trusted borrower, at that point, we finance 90 to 100% of the purchase. We finance 100% of the reno. We still finance interest, and we might even finance closing costs. So we've allowed borrowers to scale their portfolio with practically no money out of pocket. Now, that all has to fall under 75% loan to after repair value. So those numbers really have to play out, and there has to be enough room there, and you have to have done enough deals with us, and you have to have the reserves to show. But when you fall in that category, you're able to scale your portfolio practically unlimited.
Right. That's very powerful. And they got to take the steps to prove it to you guys that they're qualified to operate at that caliber and have the relationship be really strong to get to that point. I want to switch gears a little bit because I know, TJ, you and Casey are both huge community people. I think that's why we became really good friends as well.
Yep.
I would say the community aspect of what you guys are building with the investment club is really, really unique and really unlike, the individual, private money lending or investing programs that you guys have in parallel. Walk us through what's that going to be like.
That's really what gets me so excited, right? Because we have our traditional, private investors that invest with us, and we have a somewhat of a community aspect to that, but it's primarily here in Pittsburgh. This aspect's amazing because with the Steel Point Collective Investment Club, people are all going to be coming together for a common cause. They're going to vote on how we disperse the funds. They're going to learn about how we think and why we invest on the deals we lend on, and why we don't lend on the deals we don't lend on. So life's always funner when you win together. Like, try to, reach up and give yourself a high five. That's not as fun as me and you giving each other a high five. And so with the Steel Point Collective Investment Club, we're going to be able to make money while learning along the way. And, Casey and I both love teaching people how to do what they want to do. Most of the people that are going to join this club and already have joined the club, they just want to learn. They want to get better. From doing this, It's like paying for college or paying for an education. However, your money's making you money the whole time, and you get your money back at the end. So you get the best of all worlds with it. Makes me super, super excited.
Yeah, I would say that's what excites me the most too, because actually doing something and being in the thick of it is so different than, going to YouTube University. Like, you're just never gonna know the ins and outs of something unless you're actually doing it yourself. And you don't do it blind, right? It's like, why not, be a part of a rocket ship, which is what I see TJ, you and Casey being that, like for me too. Like, I'm a rookie private money lender. I can go figure this out myself, but that might take me a few years. Or I could be a part of you guys' rocket ship, which in my opinion is the investment club, and really just get a head start, right? Like, lean on the shoulders of giants, see the behind the scenes, and even the software that you guys use, the systems, right? Like, that is truly elevating my learning as well. And that's what gets me excited, on top of making money, right? Like, usually it's like you gotta pay the guru tax to learn. And now it's like, I get to learn, I get to make money, and we win together. So I love it so much.
Well, you're making me blush. It's hard to do, but you're making me blush. You're giving a lot of, my big head's getting bigger right now. But, the cool thing is that you and so many people that are going to join, you're a rocket ship yourself. You're taking off, in, like we talked about earlier, in so many different ways. So one of our core values is, extreme ownership, and then one of our core values, sub bullet points, is 1 + 1 is greater than 2. We achieve more by working together than we do separately. And this club, the Steel Point Collective Investment Club, is allowing me and you and so many others to come together to work collectively towards a common goal. Our mission at Steel Point Capital is build happiness, transform lives, and strengthen the community. And the reason why I love what we do, as far as raising capital and giving people a nice return and then lending that out and helping real estate investors achieve their goals, it's all about build happiness, it's transforming lives, and it's growing the community. Build happiness, transform lives, and strengthen the community. When we're doing this, especially with how we're lending the money in Pittsburgh, we are taking homes that are either outdated and disrepair. We're helping people do that, and they're making them beautiful homes, putting them on the tax roll, and either putting tenants in a really nice home or selling them to a homeowner, which is strengthening the Pittsburgh community and therefore the country.
I love that. That is so powerful. Well, TJ, thank you for being on the show. For everyone listening in, if you want to be a part of the rocket ship, definitely reach out to us. We would love to see you on the inside and taking off with us. And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Stella. I appreciate you more than I can say.